Hey guys, welcome back. As you can see by this title, it says mother and daughter. Um, Originally I had recorded a first video, but for some reason it was taken down due to copyright reasons. Which I kind of took as a sign, right? Because in the first video, I shared about my relationship with my mom growing up and our differences back then. And then I kind of like went into my relationship with my oldest daughter. And I just wanted to kind of like blend the two so you can see how sometimes things that you go through as a kid start reflecting on the way you raise your own kids and the decisions you make raising your own kids. And I just wanted to build a bridge how, my mom was a mother at the age of 16 when she first lost her virginity. Yes, I am the product of that. But also just her difficult time of trying to find out how to be a mom at that age, and then also becoming a mom again at 20, which, a lot of us now at this time, it's like, oh my God, I can't imagine being so young and having children because life is hard. It's hard enough as it is without having kids, right? So even though I was older when I decided to have my daughter, I was just about to turn 24 when I had her, and I was married. And honestly, I was very happy to know that I was pregnant at the time, and even happier when I found out I had a girl because I didn't know until I gave birth. And it but I always knew when I was pregnant that this person growing inside of me was going to be different, was going to have their own thoughts and their own views on life and want to do their own things. I never expected that this person inside me was going to follow in my footsteps. If anything, I wanted them to just find their own path and do better than me, right? I was younger, right? So when I was a kid, basically I had to do what I was told, right? Um, People remember getting their asses whooped. When my mom had to do what she had to do, she had to do it, right? But also there was never, you know, was a communication. So whenever we moved, I didn't know why we were moving. Whenever something life-changing happened, it kind of was like I have no say. I just had to go with the flow and figure it out, which kind of just bugged me for so long, growing up because I was going through these things with my mom and I didn't know why, and as I got older, I started looking for control of my own life. So I started making decisions that weren't necessarily good decisions, trying to find a family outside of my home. And it's not to say that I didn't have a good mom. I had a great mom, and I understand, and I started to understand as I got older, there's no such thing as being perfect, right? And when I became a mom, I started understanding the reasons why she did and said a lot of the things she did. And, we all make mistakes, and I cannot continue, even at my age now, to continue blaming her or being angry with her because one, we can't go back and change any of it, right? And two, you know, she had to go through those things for whatever the reason was. And I had to witness them for whatever the reason was. And I kind of am tying a lot of these things to my current situation with my oldest daughter because I I see some carryover from my upbringing and my views and my thoughts of how things should be, and I see it over now what's going on with me and my daughter at this time. And I know that we all get to a certain age where we're teenagers, especially when you turn 18, and most people, because I started my seeking to be out and doing my thing when I was like 14, okay? Which was insane. And I can't, I couldn't even, I don't know how many times I've apologized to my mom, and this is all jokes aside, like of how hard I made it for her to be a mom and understand me at such a young age, and how difficult that must have been for her, her constant fear and worry about where I was and what I was doing at 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, where she basically didn't know where I was, if I was still alive, if I had eaten, was I coming home, and as I, I had my daughter, and then I had my other two years later. But with Genesis, my oldest, I didn't want her to experience a lot of the pain and destructiveness that, my decisions caused me, you know. Um, Although my mom tried her hardest to get me to come home and to be home, and she wanted to be there for me, I was just very headstrong and rebellious over a lot of the things that I witnessed growing up. And I made it a decision to ignore her and ignore her advice and just try to learn things the hard way. I can go as far back as being 11 years old and having my virginity taken from me. And I mean taken. I didn't give it away. I didn't plan it. It was taken from me. And that being one of those things where, I wish I would not have pushed the issue to be out and riding my bike around the block and getting off the block and finding places to go and things to do. And had I listened, things like that wouldn't have happened, and it was wrong. It shouldn't have happened to me, even if I was off the block. But still, it's just, at 11, why? I mean, I seen what my mom had went through in her past, and I didn't want to listen to anybody anymore, and then I can think about when I was 14 years old and I had my boyfriend who I was crazy head over heels with, and getting pregnant, and him breaking up with me before I found out I was pregnant. When I told him I was pregnant, he thought that I was just saying that because I wanted him back. And my mom having to let him know, like, look, this is true. I took her to the hospital. This is what they're telling me, so on and so forth, and losing that baby at 14. And then just a snowball of things that I went through. And I can go on about the relationships I've chosen, because I was lonely, or because I thought this was right, or never listening to anyone but my so-called heart, and ruining my life, at that time, barely making it out of high school, getting locked up for fighting over a guy who eventually started beating the crap out of me and abusing me, living on the street, being homeless, thinking that if I just wanted to be with this person, I wanted to do what I would want to do, and if nobody was going to accept him, I was going to be out there with him, and turning my back on my family. And no matter how much they tried, I just kept fighting against it. And it's sad. It's sad, because like I said, I have conversations with my mom all the time, and I've apologized to her so many times for putting her through what I've put her through, because, although she'll tell you, she wasn't a perfect mom, but she was always a loving person, and she tried. She tried. When I decided to leave my ex-husband, my daughter was about a year and a half old. Truth is, I just wasn't in love with him anymore. He'll say other things. Oh, I left him to be messing around. Like, look, first of all, I won't cheat on somebody. I will leave you. um, but that wasn't the reason. I left him because of things in the past, in our past, that I couldn't live with anymore. And that'll be in another video, and just his irresponsibility and not really participating in things for his daughter and wanting to care for her the way I was hoping he would, being that she was his only daughter. I just I just wasn't in love with him. It's not that I didn't love him, because I love him like family. I just wasn't in love with him, and I knew it wasn't going to make him happy. So I figured I'd just do us both the favor and just move on. After I left him, I went through a very crazy time, because when I got together with him, I was very young. I was 19, just about to turn 20. By the time we got married, I was 22. By the time I had Genesis, I was about to turn 24. And I left him, I was about to be 26. So it was just, I felt like he had time to meet someone else and move on who was going to give him what he wanted. And I needed to do the same thing. And I took advantage of the fact that I was still 25 years old. And I felt like I found a newfound freedom. And I was just trying to explore what I wanted next with my life. And with doing that, I did a lot of damage. I hated myself. I said it. I hated myself. Um, I love Genesis. I love my family. Me and my mom had some rocky times because I was going through a hard time and trying to figure out who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do with my life now that I was a single mom. Um, I was only 25, and I know I have some 20 something year olds on my Facebook and who may watch this video, and it's not to diminish your experiences thus far, but at 25 you have barely scratched the surface of living. And now here I was about to be divorced and had a baby, and I was just trying to figure it out. I didn't know what to do. I can tell you, for about 3 months, I had my mom take Genesis to her house, which is only about 10-15 minutes away from where I lived at the time. And, I saw her every day. I spoke to her every day. It's not like, I went without seeing her during this time. But I knew that mentally I wasn't in a good place. I knew that I could not be full-time mom. I was drinking a lot. I was partying a lot. I was finding myself asleep on my kitchen floor. It's just, I was just trying to figure it out, and I was just really destroying myself. And in that process, I experienced things that I wouldn't even wish on my worst enemies. And then I woke up and I realized that I have something to live for. And she was the reason, that who was saying, the reason I had dedicated that song to her, only because all right, so I have to collect myself. um, I devoted so much time to taking care of Genesis and trying to figure out how to make up 3 months, right? But you figure she was about a year and a half, 2 years old. How much was she going to remember about those 3 months, other than she had a good time with her titi and her grandma and her grandpa? But my own guilt wouldn't allow me to let go and to heal from what I had just went through. So obviously what I did was I started spoiling her and just giving her everything she wanted, what was in my what I was able to do, within my means, of course. And my mom and my sister, my dad always being there for us and helping me with her, and after being single for, I would say, about 3 years, give or take. I ran into an ex-boyfriend who I thought it was fate being with, and it ended up not being that. It ended up being just a very abusive relationship. And although Genesis did not witness the physical abuse, um, she saw me suffering. She saw the tears. She saw the back and forth, the moving back and forth, and the trying to figure things out with this person. Um, she didn't know about me getting beat up. She didn't know about me being cheated on. I mean, she was only 5, 6 years old when I was going through this, but she saw the pain and she saw my smile completely disappear. This happy person gone. So I started trying to analyze said person and always like, what's wrong with him? But what is it that I'm doing? But why is he like this? And then one day I asked myself the question is like, why are you tolerating this? What is wrong with you? Right? Started going to therapy, and my therapist sent me to a psychologist who then diagnosed me with depression and anxiety and had me on medication. And honestly, it helped me move on from that abusive relationship. And it helped me push forward to start over again and get my own place, and some stability for me in Genesis. And again, I went through my guilt. And aside of the guilt, I have to go back to the whole mother daughter relationship dynamic, right? Um, During that relationship, my mom had ended her relationship with my dad and ended up with someone else who was just as abusive, um, in the sense of verbally and emotionally abusive to my mom, and it changed her as well. I don't want to get into details because that is her story to tell, not mine. Um, but that affected mine and her relationship very much. Um, she was a different person to me. And I was going through my own thing, so I was a different person to her. And unfortunately, Genesis got stuck in the middle of that back and forth between me and her. And I never wanted Genesis to see my mom in a negative light. So what I did was I kind of fell on the sword myself. So she would see me screaming and crying, and or you're not going to grandma's house, or I don't want you over there, or she's not coming over here. And I became the bad guy. And throughout that time, and even before that, you know, Genesis was my kid, so obviously I had to be her disciplinarian. I had to be the one to take away things and have her do things. And at grandma's house it wasn't like that. She was babied, and at Titi's house, she got whatever she wanted. She got to play whatever she wanted and do whatever she wanted without any curfew. There was not this, it wasn't mommy. That's what Titis and grandmas do. They spoil you. So with that being said, between her being spoiled over there and me always being told, déjala, for those of you who don't speak Spanish, is, oh, leave her, it's fine, déjala, it's fine. Um, this was my struggle. So I was, again, always the bad guy. And if it was over the phone, she obviously didn't hear what was being said to me on the other end. And it wasn't my job to share that with her. She was a child. And she resented me, and still to this day resents me for not allowing her to go over to my mother's house when I know my mom had good days and bad days, and I didn't want to. I didn't want her to. She was already dealing with me my bad days. I didn't want her to deal with my mom's bad days. So I did what I thought at the time was right and just kept my distance. Um, I got together with my now husband We've now been together 10 years, 10 and a half years now. And when we got together, Genesis had just turned 9 and was still very spoiled. Um, Me and her lived in a 3-bedroom apartment in Ridgewood, Queens, where I did all the cooking and the cleaning and all this, and because it was just me and her. There was no need for her to really help me. And that was my thought process at the time, because I'm like, oh, it's just us. Just play, do what you're going to do, Never really thinking about the fact that one day she was going to get older. So when me and my husband got together, one of the things was basically that he is 11 years younger than me. Okay? So that was a thing. So when he would give me advice as things like, she needs to learn how to clean her own room, she needs to know how to put away her own stuff, she has to learn how to throw out the garbage, wash some dishes, like she needs to learn how to do these things. She needs to learn how to clean the bathroom. She's not going to be 9 years old forever, and she's going to have to learn how to do these things. And she's not going to be 9 forever is what kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, because it's like, it's your baby, like, come on, don't put that in my head. She's so innocent, always watching Disney and Nickelodeon. I wasn't thinking far enough ahead to piece those things together, that it became a constant fight, or not so much of a fight, but disagreement. And I say disagreement because for me, it's like, okay, I don't mind teaching her these things or wanting her to learn these things, but I think it was the way it was communicated, because how they say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that is basically where we were in our relationship. Again, he was a lot younger than me. When I met him, he was 22. Okay, so it and it was hard to also knowing that he was never a father, right? Or never experienced what I was going through. And again, this is my first kid too. So I'm trying to figure things out. I'm trying to help her. I'm trying to make this relationship work. Unlike my last marriage, where we were together for about 2.5 years, then got married, me and Danny got married 8 months in. And our marriage didn't, our wedding or marriage or whatever, we eloped, and it didn't necessarily happen at the greatest time. Um, because there was issues, there was an issue that happened between him, my sister, myself, and Genesis, where um one day, this was during the time where I wasn't talking to my mom, but my sister lived with my mom. So I needed a moment to myself, and I know that Genesis wanted to see my sister, so I took her over there. When I got home, I was talking to Danny, and one of the things he had mentioned to me was, you yourself said that you didn't want to send her to your mom's house because you never know what mood your mother's going to be in on that day. And I know you're not, in the best mood today, but I think it's better that you bring her home because you don't know what's going to happen. So what he did was he came with me and he drove us there, and I went into the house to go get Genesis from my sister, and Genesis caught a fit. And I mean, full blown crying, yelling, screaming, because I know that she wanted to see my mom. And I know she wanted to spend more time with my sister. But again, I was so deep into it with my mom. And again, like, whatever happened before happened. Like, that part is over. But just for the sake of the story of what happened that day, I just didn't want to expose Genesis to the way my mom was at that time. So, Genesis just, again, lost her shit. She wouldn't get in the car, kept running away from me. I had to keep running to grab her and pick her up and put her in the car. Then she would do it again. And it's like she kept jumping out of the car. And again, like I said, between me and my sister and my mom, it was just like they were always taking her side and protecting her from me, her mom. So, of course, in her eyes, I'm the bad guy. They're the good guy. You know, I'm wrong. She's right, no matter how old she was. And at that moment, I would just pull it to bad judgment on my sister's part, not telling her, look, Genesis, get in the car. I'll come see you. Eventually, this will work out. Like, just to calm her down. No, it just became like this huge thing. So I get her back in the car. I get in the car because I locked the doors. And she manages to open the car doors right before he was about to take off. And right when she did that, he put his hand behind the passenger seat because I was sitting in the passenger seat. He went to grab her and ended up catching her by her hair. Genesis will tell this story very differently, because the things that happened next. When that happened, Genesis started screaming bloody murder. Okay. My sister opened the car, finished opening the car door all the way, grabbed her, told her to run in the house, and my sister jumps into the back seat and starts wailing on Danny while he was buckled into the car. So I get out of the car, and then Danny unbuckles himself and starts walking away, and my sister's still swinging on him, yelling at him. And at that point, he just turns around and hit her once. In that instance, of course, my sister, she had gotten a cut on her forehead, like right around her hairline, right before her hairline. And of course, Danny ended up, going to jail for a day, and we had to go through this whole process. And this was like 4 days before we got married and 2 days before my grandmother passed away. So you could imagine the complete traumatic thing this had on myself, my daughter, my sister, my mom, everybody completely emotional between that event, my grandmother passing, and us choosing to just go get married. Her recollection of this whole situation is very different. She'll admit that she didn't see a lot of this stuff, but it is one of the things that she has held on to all this time. Her relationship with Danny has never been a perfect relationship. It's been a roller coaster of up and down, a tug of war over me, whether it was for attention or her just not liking even our personal problems, but this all circles back to the fact that no marriage is perfect. People are not perfect. When you have two people who've gotten married so quickly, who didn't really take enough time to get to know each other, who there's a big age difference, there are gonna be bumps in the road. So unfortunately, she witnessed a lot of arguments and a lot of crap that happened between us. And I am not a perfect person. Danny's not a perfect person. We've both done and said some fucked up shit to each other, in the sake of just always trying to be right and be in control of the situation. And there were some real shitty decisions that we made towards each other, and unfortunately she had witnessed a lot of those stupid arguments. And I need to go back when I tell you that when I was a kid, how when we moved, when we did things and life changes happen, my mom never had those conversations with me of why we were doing things. I took a different approach thinking that it would be better. And that was my mistake. I'm not saying that I should have never had a relationship with her and had a conversation with her, but I feel like I divulged too much information for her to process, and her not being mature enough to understand these things. And I thought by treating her like a human being, and like, of course, kids are human beings, but I mean, in the sense like, okay, if I communicate this with her, then she's not going to grow up resenting me, wondering why I dragged her back and forth and she had no idea why. And I thought being open with her with certain things would help that and build a better relationship. And that did not work out the way I would hope it did. Again, when as a mom, when you feel guilty, you go to the point of spoiling. And then the thought process of trying to be a friend more than a mom. And a lot of people do this differently, right? My approach was, you can come talk to me about anything, and constantly defending her and protecting her when she was being bullied, pulling her out of one school, putting her in another school. And Genesis wasn't a fighter and she didn't want to get in trouble, so I was constantly taking her out of school, especially junior high school. It was like she went to 3 or 4 junior high schools because she was constantly being bullied. And at the last point, I ended up having to send her to stay with my mom and go to junior high school in Queens, where we used to live. So it was just this constant protection and this guilt and this spoiling her and giving her what she wanted that caused what now I feel it has been the worst thing that I've had to deal with in the past year and a half. Me and Genesis obviously right now are not on talking terms. And I would say a few months ago, you may have caught me constantly in tears, constantly wondering what the hell was going on with her. But today I'm not feeling that way. I feel very differently. And I can explain exactly why. So hold on. So here we go. So when Genesis was, I would say about, she had just turned 17, give or take, around that time, she had gotten together with this girl who, her family was homeless. And, we got to know the girl and she told us about what was going on with her. So together, me and Danny had made the decision to tell her to have the girl come stay with us. Initially, she came in, very shy, very quiet at the time, just trying to get used to being around people who are not her family and getting used to a different way of doing things, because according to what we've been told was that her mom was perfectly fine with her, being outside late or whatever the case may be, and we just did not play that here. There's a curfew. You are still in high school. You haven't even started your senior year yet. Your grades have to stay up and you have to help out in the house. This is typical whenever you live with someone, even as a teenager in your own parents' house. If you go around thinking that you don't have to do anything to live there, you are sadly mistaken. In our home, me and Danny work. Danny works 2 jobs most of the time. And for me, I had a tough going when we first moved out here in Florida. The first year was very rocky finding work. Then I started working from home and I did that for almost 2 years. Then I finally found the job that I'm at now, which I've been with them for a little over 2 years as well. Her story is that she spent all 4 of her high school years babysitting her sisters, admittedly knowing that it's because we had to work, but her gripe is that we never tried to find a babysitter or daycare. Any parents out there know how much that costs? Yeah. So she wasn't working because she was in high school. She claims that she had wanted to do things in high school, but there was never real initiative to do things. And honestly, some of the things that she had brought up, unfortunately, financially, I couldn't afford it, because if I could afford that, I would have afforded a babysitter or a daycare, and she would have had a little more freedom. But again, I was home for 2 years working. So, and her babysitting was a couple of hours after school. She was free to go on the weekend. But again, I digress. The weekends would come and go, and people would invite her to go places, and it was not what she wanted to do, so she wouldn't go. And then when she would get caught up in a relationship, it was just about her and that specific person. We all done it as teenagers, it's all about the person that we're with. And even as adults, sometimes we still do that. But either way, she was not on lockdown like that. We had rules. Homes have rules. You need to help. And when somebody from the outside comes to live and we give them the opportunity, you're going to help too. Whether it's helping out in the house or helping out with something financially. That's what it is. You got a roof over your head. You got food in your stomach. Like, you can take a shower. You can sleep. You can watch TV. You got the internet. And in our situation, it was, we go out as a family, we're taking care of you. And there's times where, financially we didn't have it for everybody. So if you have it, you chip in, and if you're one who's saying, oh, I want to make plans, if you got money to make those plans, then we'll figure it out. It is what it is, and with that whole shit show, there are times that shit would hit the fan here. And there were times where I was extremely disrespected in front of people. And most moms would have turned around and whooped that ass many times. But I chose to walk away and cry. And I would go to another room, and I can overhear her friends telling her, why did you do that? Damn, you're fucked up. Because I used to take care of her friends like they were my own. We would go out, I would take her friends. We would do things, I would take her friends. The friends would come over, I would cook. And I'm not cooking for the 5 people that lived here. There was times where I was cooking for 10 people that were coming through my house. That's just the people that we are, the person that I am, and everybody was welcome. So right now, as our relationship is concerned, the minute she turned 18, it became all out fucking hell. Hell. She made it her business to leave home and say that I kicked her out. I tell you, if you're not happy where you are, leave. You want to call that kicking somebody out? Her little girlfriend that was living here got some type of battery in her back right before she left to be disrespectful to me. She didn't want to follow rules. She felt like we were too much for her. So you know what? You're not happy where you are, leave. And the manipulation came in, well, if she leaves, I'm leaving. What do you want me to do? I'm continue taking disrespect. Think that you're going to run my house. Think that you're going to run my car. Not follow rules, not help out, not with an attitude. The most ungrateful shit. Okay? And I can tell you that there were times where I was just pissed off and frustrated, and I would be like, yo, just fucking leave. Go. Get out. Get the fuck out. Because I just got really tired of the bullshit. Really tired of the bullshit. And over the years, Genesis always chose everyone else but me. Regardless to my sacrifice, regardless how much I loved her, no matter what I tried to do for her, try to be there for her, especially this last fucking thing with her ex-girlfriend living here. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. She made a decision that it was, I have a place to go now. I have a newfound friend who has a family that's very cool and down to earth. So this is a time I can tell you that things went truly, truly left. We had another disagreement. The girlfriend decided to be real nasty with me over the phone while they were out in my car. She comes back. We get into this big argument. She dips off, right? Saying, oh, she has to go, I have to go. Mind you, I never even told this girl she had to go anywhere. But that's besides the point. During the next day or so, there's text messages going back and forth between my husband, myself, her, all in this group. And the disrespect that was coming from the other end just blew my mind. And the reason why I say blows my mind is because it was like, yo, bruh, please, ha ha ha, laughing at me while I'm trying to talk to you. Mind you, I have taken years, not a couple of weeks, not a couple of months, years of disrespect from my daughter in front of her friends, always trying to make me feel bad for whatever she wants to be angry about, resenting the fact that I had 2 kids later on in life that she had to help with when I had to work at times, being with somebody she didn't like, being angry with me for my own life decisions. She decided, well, I'm just gonna be disrespectful because I don't give a fuck no more. So she decides to come with this girl and this girl's guy friend to my house because we had told them to come grab her shit because I was putting it out. Not my daughter's stuff, the girl's stuff. Okay? You want to be nasty, you want to be disrespectful, you tough over the phone. My daughter's being tough over the phone. I said, you know what? Let's make it happen. Keep that same energy when you come because you 18 now, right? You're disrespecting your mom. You want to come to my house and you want to put this smug little look on your face and think it's okay. Tell me how I'm trying to talk to her and I'm telling her, you're tough, be tough now. And I get the, bitch, please. If you're a mom watching this, what is your next move? I'll give you a few seconds to answer. Your daughter says, bitch, please. Yeah, that's right. I took it to her and I held back. Because she's my daughter. And I outweigh her for about 100 pounds, give or take. So I wasn't going to go ape shit, but I let it out. And she holds on to that too. Not remembering all the disrespect that I had taken for years in front of people. Right? After that, she disappears. 2 weeks. Don't know where she's at. Don't know what she's doing. Don't know if she's dead or alive. I'm sitting around mourning my kid. Like, yo, why did it end that way? This is the last thing that we're going to remember from each other. What if something happens to her out there? And then I start feeling guilt again. And I start going through my own, oh my gosh. And I'm crying every day. And her graduation's approaching. And I've done put this kid through school, made sure she got there every single fucking day. Protected her, defended her, did everything I needed to do for her. I'm going to miss her graduation now. Like, it was insane. Insane. And Danny goes out there and has a conversation with her. And that day he records the conversation. She doesn't know that the conversation's being recorded. And he's asking her what's going on. And she's like, oh, I can't talk to her. She's not somebody who's easy to talk to, and all this other stuff that's going on. And of course, she's there cursing and talking and this and that with him, because she wouldn't curse and talk like that in front of me. But she did it with him. And then he asked her, you know, did I ever do anything? You know, is anything have to do with me? Because all this shit happened, I wasn't home. And she was like, no, you're cool to talk to. And no. And he was like, have I ever made you feel uncomfortable? No, it's not like that. I'd rather talk to you than talk to her. So on and so forth. I eventually made it to her graduation. No thanks to her. Someone who considered her a friend, but she didn't consider them a friend. She was kind enough to give me a ticket, because Genesis sold all her tickets with the exception of one that she left for my sister. After graduation, her and I hugged it out. We had some conversation. We met up, had more conversation the day after, and she ended up coming home with a rabbit. Her room was still intact the way it was when she decided to bolt. And, you know, the whole thing was trying to keep her home safe until she figured out what she wanted to do with her life. She wanted to go to school for hair and makeup. Then it became just makeup. Then she said, I can do it online. I want to work. She was working 2 jobs. I want a car. Struggle to go and find her way to get a car. So I'm running around with her rampant, going through all her plans, trying to help her. Danny trying to support her in her dreams, and she wanted to do makeup, buying her makeup. Wanted to take pictures. We got a whole photo studio. Years ago for her sweet 16, him and I bought her a camera because she wanted to take pictures. Like, anything she wanted to do, we did our best to support her the best way we could and try to motivate her. And she saw it as us pushing her and trying to manipulate her or trying to force her. Or it's just like, were we going to be the type of parents to just sit back and let her go down a drain, or actually be there to motivate her and try to help her make something of herself so that she can have her own roof over her head and have her own, and just trying to prepare her for the future? I mean, we both know she didn't want to be here. We know that she wanted her freedom. We know, but Genesis, although she was very like motivated in the sense that she knew what she wanted, and she wanted to be artistic, whether it was makeup, whether it was special effects, whether it was putting together sceneries and opening up a gallery, a moving gallery, and doing all these things. And we wanted to help her any way we could. She just didn't want us on top of her. She wanted complete, absolute freedom. But living here meant you had a curfew, because I have 2 other kids here. You know, Danny was hardly ever home at night. He was worried about the in and out late at night in the neighborhood that we live in. And these things are all like realistic common sense things. But her final thing before our last blow up was, look, I just want to go to bartending school, get my license, bartend, make some money, get my money together, get my own place, and then I'll figure out what I want to do from there, if there's anything else I want to do. All right, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Let's just get it done. She's working at an ale house, and all of a sudden COVID hits. Mind you, during this time from when she came back home in May, well, I would say June of 2019, to when all this crap hit, she was hardly ever here. She was hardly ever home. She would come, be home 2 or 3 days, and then be at her friend's house the rest of the week. If it wasn't her friend's house, it was her girlfriend's house, her new girlfriend's house. If it wasn't, you know, she was not living here. And even in conversations, it was, I only come to make sure that I feed my rabbit. So I have two kids sharing a room, one room that's not being used only to store an animal. You've basically made yourself comfortable living with someone else. Are you going to move in with them? And I would ask her from time to time, because it's just like, okay, if you're not going to be there, I can give the room to one of your sisters. If you're planning on moving out, then let's find out how you're doing that. You know? And it was just, it was a headache. It was a headache just trying to figure her out. Only the what kind of like put the nail in the coffin was we had just gotten a new puppy. My husband had surprised us with a dog. I'm really not a dog person. So I wasn't 100% happy with having to clean up after an animal, because it's just not who I am. Sorry. It just, I think they're cute. And I'm just like, oh, you're so cute. Okay, go back to your family, you know. But just like some people are with kids. Some people see kids and they're like, oh my God, they're so adorable. Okay, here's your kid. You know, it is what it is. And she was here. We were all having a good time, me, her, and the girls, laughing and joking. And I think we were killing flies because there was flies coming into the house every time we opened the door. And we were just joking about that. And then I turned my back for like 2.5 seconds, and the little ones got into a freaking crap. And she kind of instigated, she instigated some of that, because one hit the other one. And then she told the one that got hit, oh, don't stay hit her back. And the other one smacked the other one in the face. So I was gonna lose my shit on both of them. But I grabbed the one who hit first. And she went off on me, starts yelling at me, screaming at me, and all this other stuff. And I'm like, these are my kids. You're my kid, but these are my kids. I'll deal with them the way I'm going to deal with them. Oh, but it's not fair, and blah, 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 blah. And she hit her first. And I'm like, they're sisters. And at the end of the day, you telling one to hit the other, it's different as if you're telling them to hit a stranger who hit them. It's wrong. In that whole process, she's yelling at me at the top of her lungs. She is popping off as if I'm some stranger in the street. And the girls are just like, what the hell? Their crying stopped. And I had to tell her, yo, fucking leave. And it wasn't me kicking her out of the house. It's just like, yo, you're popping off. You need to go. Basically, go take your ass and calm your ass down, because you're not going to be yelling at me in my house. You don't even fucking live here no more. Even though it wasn't set in stone and we didn't have the conversation, or you didn't make the decision right away to leave, you don't live here. You live with your friend. You forgot about your family. You forgot about me. You forgot about your sisters. You made a decision to go off and do what you wanted to do because you have your newfound freedom. So on her way out, she goes to slam the door, and the puppy was running behind her. She slams the door, and the puppy's paw got stuck between the door and the frame. There's blood all over the floor. The kids are screaming hysterical. It was horrible. The girls were completely traumatized. Okay. I go out there and I start flipping, like, come get your goddamn rabbit. Take it before I end up fucking killing it. Because you're not going to do this, walk out and think everything's okay. That's not going to happen. Come grab your rabbit. Again, with her manipulation. If the rabbit ever leaves, I'm leaving. So she took me telling her to take her rabbit as me kicking her out of the house. Because in the back of her mind, if I ever told her to take the rabbit out of here, she was going to leave. I take the dog to the hospital. I come back, and most of her shit is gone. Her big flat screen TV's gone. A bunch of her clothes are gone. The rabbit's gone. I guess she made the decision to take all her shit and leave. That's another story that she will not tell in its entirety because she is now a victim. Now, you may be wondering why I've vented on for this long about these mother-daughter relationships. And after she left, we tried to, again, restart our relationship. Obviously, clear and concise that she doesn't live here anymore. I gave the room to her sister. She would come visit. I would have her over for dinner. I would go meet her at the pool. I would try my best to talk to her every day. But then I started noticing a trend that whenever she had me alone, she would go out of her way to throw digs at me using her friends' parents as examples. And I didn't want to fight no more. I was done fighting with her. Because even that big blow up with the dog and that whole situation, she was like, oh, what are you going to do? What you did to me last year? No. Because I did not want to be there with her. Especially after that happened, I didn't want to be there with her. And here we were again, arguing again. And I made the decision that I am not going to argue with her no more. And even though she was saying some disrespectful things when we would hang out and try to throw at me and say things to me to try to make me feel bad or whatever, or want me to admit certain things, it's not about me admitting things. Because at the end of the day, you can't tell me we all make mistakes. We are not perfect people. But here we are, and I have to own it. And I have no problem owning up to the mistakes I've made with her or with anybody. I have no problems apologizing for those mistakes that I've made. But I can't go back and change those things. So going forward, this isn't about the mistakes anymore. It's about forgiveness. It's about letting go. It's about moving forward, growing from these things. And if you want to move differently, you move differently. We don't have to be as close. One of the things that she doesn't like is that I stood with my husband after our issues last year. You can't manipulate me with, you can't have me if I don't have this, right? So what I mean by that is, if my girlfriend leaves, I leave. If the rabbit leaves, I leave. If you don't do this, if you don't get rid of this relationship that you're in, or if you don't move this way or that way, you can't have me. That is the worst form of manipulation, knowing what you mean to me. And we can sit here and point out everybody's flaws and what they should have and could have done, because again, I'm not perfect, she's not perfect, my husband's not perfect, none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes and we all learn from them, and we all have to take responsibilities for our own and just try to be better people. This day and age right now, between her and I, there's zero communication. And I have made it a conscious decision to stop the disrespect from anyone. And that's including her. I love her. I want the best for her. I want her to be happy. I want her to be healthy. And I also want her to be wealthy. I want her to be okay. Even if she's not wealthy, I want her to be okay. I want her to be happy. But I also don't want it at the expense of the disrespect towards me and holding things against me that I've forgiven myself for, that others have forgiven me for, and most importantly, that God has forgiven me for. I am not going to live in a state of guilt anymore or regret. My decision is to move forward with my life and try to find my peace and try to become whole for the two little ones that still need me. So very much as I may not 100% agree with the decisions that she's decided to make recently. She had decided to live in her car. She had gone out to Pennsylvania when I was out there, stayed with my mom and caused a scene there and said some real ridiculous things and crazy things and caused this huge problem that was completely unnecessary and ended up hurting her in the long run, because you can't control yourself. It is what it is. And when I say these relationships between mother and daughter, I know that there's some people who have some beautiful relationships with their kids. And I know that they go through their little ups and downs and their little headaches. But then there's some of us that right now are fighting with my hands are tied. You know, our kids get to a certain age where we don't have control anymore. We don't have say anymore. And our children don't come with manuals. We don't come with manuals. We don't come with how to do, how to handle, how to fix, how to, whatever the case may be. We do our best with what we got while we have it. And we try to make things better. And I honestly believe, and God knows that I've tried. I can't get a word in edgewise, whether it is in person or whether it's been through messaging. But unfortunately, I have had to choose to wipe my hands completely if I want to have a better life. Peaceful. Doesn't mean I stop thinking about her, worrying about her, praying for her, loving her, whatever. But it means that I am giving her exactly what she wanted. And that was to, how did she put it? Be away from me since she was little. And stop disappointing her by just letting her go. So the dynamic here was trying to be different than the relationship I had with my mom, to change that with my own and having a different approach. And despite my mistakes in my personal life, she was always my first priority. I always wanted to make sure she was happy. She may not see it that way, and that's fine. She's entitled to her feelings, but you know, God knows what it is. But I know that I'm not going to make these same mistakes again with the two that I have, allowing them to grow up happy and giving them a home where they are loved, but they're going to have responsibilities from young. So my little ones like to sweep and mop and wash dishes and help wherever they can, fold laundry. They hate cleaning their room, which is weird. Like, you want to clean the living room, but you don't want to clean your bedroom. I don't know, but they still have to do it. And just different. Just different. And I pray for her whether she believes in God or not. But I do. And this will work out. It's one way or another. I have faith. And anybody having similar situations with their teenagers, you're not alone. And recently I've learned that I'm not alone. And I'm thankful for having the support of my family now. Better late than never when it comes to this situation. And things are going to get better. Thanks for watching. There's more stories. As I said, the video originally that I had got taken down. This was supposed to be part 3 for the follow-up. If you see Mother and Daughter part 2, that was between the 2 videos. Anyway, thank you again. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.